That's us. Let's go. Hey.
Hey, everybody.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning, Carl.
Bonjour.
Bonjour. I'm Ariel Wengroff once again. This is Carl Anderson.
Hey.
We are so happy to be welcoming you to day 2 of Ledger Open. Thank you for being with us this morning. Thank you for tuning in on Twitter if you're watching us there. Reminder, please follow our Ledger Twitter and join our Ledger Discord account if you haven't yet. Ask questions if you're watching live. If you're in the room, we commend you. I know some people had a very late night and fun time at the party. And just as a reminder, yesterday was really about announcements, key global updates for us as a business, and as Pascal, our CEO, said, really making it known to all of you developers that Ledger truly is a platform for you to build on, create, and allow for you to develop the next thing, right? And so we're really excited for day 2 of that. I did just want to say, for those who had issues yesterday claiming your NFT because it was really popular, so everyone was trying to do it at once, which is great. Please find Rod, who's right here, our head of developer relations. He can help make sure that you get everything that you need, so find him throughout the day. And also, I just wanted to remind everyone, we made some great announcements yesterday. Our Nano S Plus, the Ledger Card, which the waitlist is crazy for, so if you haven't signed up yet, please do. And I'm actually really pleased also, Carl's going to speak to it, but we have our Chief Technology Officer, Charles Guillemet, speaking this morning, and I always like to joke and call him our chief educator because every time he talks, I feel like I'm getting a really good, special understanding of the space. So we're really proud to have such amazing leaders, not only in Ledger, but in the industry, and excited for day 2. So what do you think, Carl?
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited. As you said, we're going to start with a few talks from Ledger, starting with CTO Charles Guillemet, followed by Fabrice, who's going to talk about Coins integration and the platform, and a few key announcements in there. But I'll leave it for you, Fabrice. But it's not it. As we said yesterday, it's just not about us. It's about all of us, right? It's not just about Ledger. It's about this community, and a lot of great talks today. We're going to talk about Layer 2, about DeFi, about staking, topics that we scratched the surface yesterday, but we're going to go deeper on it. And today it's really about stacks and hips and methods and parameters. It's about code. So that I'm super excited to go into this developer day today. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome on stage our CTO, Charles Guillemet. Thank you.
Good morning! Yeah, I'm Charles Guillemet, CTO at Ledger. Briefly about me, my background is around security and cryptography. I joined Ledger exactly 4 years ago, exactly today. So thank you very much for organizing this big party for my anniversary. My talk is called Securing the Web3 Revolution. I'm going to start with introducing what is Web3. Then I will give you an overview of the security history. And finally, I will discuss the challenge we have to tackle in the Web3 security. First of all, maybe you can raise your hand if you hold crypto. Of course. Now you can raise your hand if you have ever lost crypto. Okay, sorry for your loss. Unfortunately, I think it's only the beginning. More and more people will lose crypto, and this is not easy to secure this. So let's get started. Technology is constantly changing the world, and blockchain technology is about to change the world. And this revolution won't happen without security. Security is a big challenge in this revolution. Let me give you a little story about the internet. I totally agree that this Web 1, 2, 3 versioning is a bit artificial. If internet has had a version number, that would be rather something like 2,345 46.3.2.rc2. I agree with that. Nevertheless, one can distinguish three main eras in the internet. First, internet was mostly wires and protocols. And then we had what we call today Web 1. Web 1 was pretty primitive, quite decentralized, and driven by the community, mostly static pages. And then in the beginning of the 2000s, we started to see new services, mostly centralized services who captured all the values. And as in Web 1, they wanted a free internet. But at some point, they had to pay the bill. And this is the beginning of the monetization of data. So you lose your privacy, and they earn money on your data. As we say, when it's free, you are the product. And then we have Web 3. The future is already now. Web 3 is about decentralization, self-sovereignty, mostly driven by the community so far. And also it allows a paradigm shift in the incentives. And from a technology perspective, it's enabled by the blockchain technology. We are very early. If we compare Web3 to Web 1, in terms of adoption, we are in 1998. Only 150 million users, not that much. And maybe you remember this time. I do remember well this time, 1998. At this time, internet was mostly internet doing weird noise. That was also static content only, and we started to see a few non-web services like Napster or ICQ. Do you remember this time? Cool. I was young, but I thought that a revolution was ongoing. But frankly, 25 years after, I had no idea how big this revolution would be. It has been a very big revolution, revolution of information, revolution in the way you get access to the information, in the way that you communicate with humans. It's a revolution in humanity. We are at the beginning of this Web3 revolution. But frankly, it's very difficult to predict what will happen in 5, 10, or 25 years. The only thing I know is that it will be huge. Now, let me give you a little story about security. I was always fascinated by technology, but even more by the security aspect of technology. In the 90s, during Web 1, internet was mostly about HTTP protocol, like everything was in plain. The TLS layer has been standardized only in 1999, and we had to wait for the 2000 to have HTTPS everywhere. That means that before the 2000, everything was in plain. From an attacker perspective, it's great. You only have to capture the traffic, modify it, spy it. From an attacker perspective, it's great. So when HTTPS arrive, the attackers has to go from let's capture all the traffic to let's break all the endpoints. Because you have no choice. You cannot break the cryptography. This is why the apparition of the iPhone is important in this security timeline. Because the iPhone puts a completely non-secure device in the hand of the end user. And this device is pretty interesting from a data perspective. It contains plenty of interesting data on its user. At the same time, you have the security research timeline. In the 90s, when you found a critical vulnerability, you did like full disclosure. You go in black hat, bragging about your brand new vulnerability, or you simply publish your vulnerability on the dark web. At this time, the dark web was mostly web pages with dark background. That was not really fancy. But at this time, vendors were pretty pissed off about that, because when you do a full disclosure, that means that any attacker can get this vulnerability to exploit it. So this is when they started to incentivize security researchers to do a responsible disclosure. This is the beginning of the responsible disclosure, bug bounties era. And now, this security research has become an industry. In the beginning of the 90s, when you found a vulnerability, you were very happy if you could sell your vulnerability for 100 USD. And today we have brokers. Do you have an idea on how much is it for the most critical vulnerability today? It's 2.5 million. Like, if you find a critical vulnerability on Android, allowing you to have like 0-click, 0-day, full chain persistent attack on Android, you can be paid 2.5 million. What does it mean? That means that it's a big business because the stakes are high. And when the stakes are high, attackers get high potential, and they are ready to pay. Who are the attackers? There are two kinds of different attackers. The first one is nation-state agencies. We already know that. And the second one is a criminal organization. I won't say that this is the same. This is not. You have probably heard about Pegasus. Pegasus is simply an industrial software allowing to break smartphone remotely. From a Pegasus user perspective, it's quite easy. You take the phone number of your victim, you input it on a field, you click on hack, and that's it. You have a full access to the smartphone of your victim. And when I say full access, I mean that you are able to drain all the data, like SMS, messaging, anything on the device. You can spy his screen. You can switch on his camera. You can switch on his microphone. You can connect to the website where he has connection because you can dump the data. So you have a full access to his device. Pegasus has been developed by NSO. NSO is an Israeli security company. And technically speaking, it simply leverages the kind of vulnerability I mentioned before. It will leverage a vulnerability in your WhatsApp or messaging app most of the time. It will send a specific payload in this app, and using a vulnerability in the app, it will install Pegasus on your smartphone. And then it's done. Your smartphone is completely broken. You probably have heard about Stuxnet as well. It's quite famous now. Stuxnet has been developed in the 2005, I think, by US and Israeli national agency. And at this time, the Iran was starting a nuclear program, and Israeli was hesitating to start a war against Iran. And with US, they decided to not do a war, but a cyber war. And what they did is Stuxnet. Stuxnet is a software which allowed the attacker to completely break the centrifuge of the nuclear program of Iran. The centrifuge were air-gapped. This is a SCADA system completely air-gapped. So they had to find multiple vulnerability. In Stuxnet, there are 7 different 0-day vulnerability. And the malware spread all over different networks. And at some point, I guess there has been some USB, some drive, which has been connected to the SCADA system. And it completely broke the centrifuge of the Iran. Just to say that when the stakes are high, attackers have high potential, and air-gapping is not really a solution. And we are here in this Web3 revolution powered by blockchain. Blockchain technology is about decentralization, it's about self-sovereignty, it's about self-custody, of course, we already know that, and it's about empowerment at the end. And as a very great philosopher said in the past, With great power comes great responsibility. And in blockchain, it completely shifts the security challenge to the endpoint. And as I mentioned before, endpoints are fundamentally insecure. So we are now in this situation. Let's see what currently happens in the ecosystem. First of all, the industry is clearly not mature. Only in 2021, we have like more than $1 billion USD stolen in DeFi. On exchanges, I don't have a precise figure, but this is the same. They are constantly hacked. Industry is not mature yet. We also have phishing attacks. Scammers are everywhere. And as we say in security, the easiest way to find a user passwords is to kindly ask to the user his password. This is what phishing is about. You don't ask the password of the user, but you ask his 24 words. And unfortunately, it happens very often, and it works pretty well. And now we started to see a targeted attack. At the beginning, targeted attack was mostly a SIM swap attack, like you call a carrier and you SIM swap the phone number of your victim so that you have an access to his 2FA, and then you can recover his Coinbase account, and it's done. You lose your crypto. And now we're starting to see even more sophisticated attack, like if you have your key on a software wallet and you are targeted by this kind of attackers, there is no uncertainties about the outcome. You will lose your crypto. This is like jumping in the ring against Mike Tyson. There is no uncertainty against the outcome. And unfortunately, this kind of hack starting to rise, and we see more and more this kind of hacks on the field. Let's keep it simple. Today, securing Web3 is about securing your private key and securing your private key when you use it. So we have security is twofold. You have security at rest and security at use. Security at rest is quite simple to understand. You have a private key, and you have to put it in some kind of safe so that the attacker cannot access to it. Sharing is caring, but it does not apply with your private key. And then you have security at use. When you are using your crypto, you are using your private key to derive your address, to derive your private key, or to sign a transaction, to sign an interaction with the blockchain. So how do you secure that? Where the cryptography is implemented? Are your key exposed in this situation or not? And finally, in security at use, you also have another important property is what you see is what you sign. When you are about to sign a transaction, when you consent for this transaction, how can you be sure that the actual transaction which will be signed by your wallet is the one you consented for? This is the what you see is what you sign property. So security is security at rest, security at use, and security at use is twofold, as I mentioned. Let's give a simple example with a software wallet. I have installed Electrum Wallet on my desktop. This is a Windows desktop. And there is a malware on my computer. This malware simply spies the process running on my machine. And as soon as Electrum Wallet is launched, it will spy the process and the memory of the process. And as soon as you unlock the wallet, my malware gets access to your seed, and then it's done. You lose your crypto. It's as simple as that, and there is nothing you can do. As soon as there is a malware on your machine, the malware can access to your private key. We know better mobile wallet. And unfortunately, today, software wallets on your mobile are mostly a regular wallet. They run on Android or iOS. And as soon as you have a malware on the same Android phone or iOS phone, if it's able to break the isolation of the operating system, it's done. It can access to the software wallet. And unfortunately, isolation of this OS is not so good. It's broken again and again. And even if you have like a very high-end phone with the very last version of Android, you can be sure that there are some zero-day on the field allowing to break this isolation. Let's see how it works. So here I have installed blockchain.com mobile software wallet on my Android. And on the same phone, I have a malware which runs on it. This malware can be installed through like in Pegasus, the same way Pegasus is installed, like through a vulnerability in your messaging app. Or you have simply installed a Bitcoin Ticker application, for instance, and this Bitcoin Ticker application contains a malware. So this is a blockchain.com wallet. I send it, I launch it, I unlock it with my PIN number, and then the malware on my phone just captures the seed and send it over the internet to the attacker. And that's it. This is the seed. You lose your crypto. And again, there is nothing you can do against this kind of attacks. As soon as your seed is within your phone, if an attacker has an access to your phone and can run a malware, it will be able to extract your seed. And then here we can verify that the seed is correct. Of course it is. And it's not a matter of Electrum or blockchain.com wallet. This is just a matter of software wallet. Operating system and this kind of hardware are not designed for security. You remember, security is security at rest, security at use, and trusted display. As of today, on mobile, you cannot have any of the three. But maybe in the future, we can imagine hardened version of software wallet on mobile. Today, we have on high-end mobile phone, there is something which is called the Trust Zone. Trust Zone is a dedicated hardware part of your SoC, system on chip. And you can create a trusted execution environment with this Trust Zone. Doing so, you could put your keys inside this Trust Zone. But if you do that, today, as the Trust Zone do not implement the cryptography required for implementing a Bitcoin wallet, for instance, that means that your application would have to request the key to the Trust Zone and to expose the key in the rich world. So that means that the security at use is not fulfilled. In this kind of situation, you would have security at rest, a bit more, let's say, but not security at use. We can imagine that in the future, Android or iOS will implement this modern cryptography. Not so modern, but it's not yet in there. And if they do that, that means that the keys would stay in the trusted execution environment, and as soon as you want to sign a transaction, the signature would happen in the Trust Zone. So we would have security at rest and security at use. The problem is when you consent for a transaction, you have no idea of what is actually signed in this trusted execution environment because you don't have the trusted display. You don't have the what you see is what you sign. It's a bit frightening, no? But there is good news. Ledger fixed this. So we are fixing this with the three different properties. For security at rest, we are using secure hardware, smart card technology. Inside our hardware wallet, there is a secure element. So this is a dedicated circuit especially designed for security. Your keys are inside this enclave and never leave this enclave because when you use your key for generating your address or deriving your public key or signing a transaction all the cryptography is implemented inside this secure enclave. So you have security at rest and security at use. And also, you have probably noticed that on our hardware wallet, there is a screen, and the screen is connected, driven by the secure element. That means that you also have what you see is what you sign with this trusted display. So this is how we solve this problem of security when you use your crypto. We provide this security break, avoiding blind signing, as we say. The problem is there is more and more crypto, more and more different interaction. That's why we need your help to implement more and more interaction and support more and more crypto. So that's why we developed this developer portal, and we welcome external contribution in many different areas. First of all, we welcome contribution for developing app running on the Nano. Today, we have 150 different apps, and most of them have been written by the community. A lot of them have been written by Zonda's team, who talked yesterday. So this is the first thing we do. We open our stack. The second one is connecting your wallet. If you are implementing a wallet or any kind of application related to Web3, you can integrate Ledger Nano on your stack, so it secures your dApp for your users. So we have a developer portal for this. Very recently, we have opened more Ledger Live. Ledger Live is open source for a long time, but very recently, we are welcoming contribution for blockchain support within Ledger Live. So if your favorite coin is not within Ledger Live right now, you can discuss with our team and help us to implement your coin within Ledger Live. And finally, this year, we have developed a kind of dApp browser allowing to include your dApp directly in Ledger Live so that we can leverage the security of Ledger and the ease of use of your dApp. I won't get too much in those details because Fabrice will talk about this just after me. Everything is very well organized. This is the end of my talk. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and don't lose your crypto. If you have questions, I think we have a couple of minutes. Yes?
Thank you. That was a very nice presentation. You scanned the past. I would like to talk about the future and how do you see self-custody and mass adoption? How do you see the market trending in this direction? Do you believe in that? And what's Ledger's positioning towards that?
Yeah, for me, Web3 is about self-custody and self-sovereignty. So if we do this revolution and we end up with our keys in Coinbase, I would be a bit disappointed, I have to admit. So I think this is our responsibility in the ecosystem to make sure that self-custody is as easy as possible. I agree, there is always a little of overhead, it's a bit more complex, but we are working hard on that. We have a couple of projects ongoing to remove the friction because let's admit it, today it's too complex for my mother. They won't use Ledger Wallet. I tried to convince her, but she does not understand there's hexadecimal things, there's 24 words, and so on. So we have plenty of ideas to remove this friction, and I think this is our responsibility. Because if ever the future is about having your crypto on an exchange, I think we would have lost the revolution. Any other question?
Yes. Are there plans to get a device with a much larger screen that enables, not necessarily touch screen, but generally something like Ledger Blue even, that enables more complex interactions because the tiny screens are hard?
Yeah, I agree. What you say is totally right. but I don't do any announcement right now about that. But this is a problem which needs to be solved, and we are thinking about this very carefully.
Any more questions?
Why not to add something like a two-factor authorization, something like a mix Ledger and YubiKey together to get a totally secure combination? Like
definitely, does it work? Yes. We still can improve security. So YubiKey plus Ledger, I don't really see how it would work, but what we can do already is to implement multisig. So on Bitcoin, for instance, you can create a multisig wallet and to have several signers with several Ledger Nano. You can even use different kind of hardware. Like you can have a multisig wallet, let's say 2 out of 3, and one of the signer is Ledger Nano, another one is a Trezor. I don't recommend, but still. And the third one is a cold card. And to make a transaction, you have to gather 2 out of 3 signature, and then you can send your Bitcoin. There was this for Bitcoin, and there was similar things on Ethereum. For instance, Gnosis Safe is implementing this using smart contract, and then you have several devices, several signers to even more increase the security. But again, this security increase comes with a drawback, which is convenience. Like, I won't convince my mother to create a Gnosis Safe smart wallet to sign a transaction on Ethereum.
Hi. I had, in fact, 2 questions. The first one was, like, how many combination is possible with, like, 24 words on Ledger? And the second one is it possible, like, for those 24 words, that a bot hacks a Ledger wallet, or a bot links like on a Ledger, tries as many combination as you will say, and hacks the wallet? Because you talk about security, but what is the security about the Ledger, the possibilities to be hacked?
So this is a question of entropy. Basically, your 24 words is a human readable representation of a very big number, and this very big number is 256 bits long. So this is 2 power 256. And this number is very huge. Like, it's very difficult to imagine how huge it is. If you want to try randomly every single combination for the 24 words and find my key, you have the same probability to do that to win the lottery 30 times in a row. So it won't never happen. And if you try to create a computer which tries them, you would need like several times the age of the universe using like all the computers we would have today on Earth. So this won't happen, definitely. It's just a matter of numbers. It's not impossible by theory, but the number is so huge that there is no chance. Okay, it seems it's the end for me, so thank you very much for your attention, and have a good day.